Today we look at a section of both races which takes you from the top of Southern Cross Drive, which is the 13k mark of the half and about the 48 kilometer mark of the ultra, and it drops you down and then takes you on a rolling sequence of hills past Cecilia Forest, Kirstenbosch top gate, and then a very steep descent all the way to the bottom gate of Kirstenbosch and on to the M3 where you hit the finish straight towards UCT. Now this is a section that brings with it some challenges, and I think the main one is that in both races, whether it's the ultra or the half, you've just finished the most challenging section, the climb of Constantia or the Southern Cross Drive climb. And I think there's a temptation at that point to really want to put the hammer down and push for home because you've got 8 kilometers to go. But unfortunately, the race doesn't allow that because it throws at you a series of undulating hills. Is a descent and then a hill, then a slight descent and then a pull up again. None of which is particularly long, but all of which are just enough to break your rhythm and force you into slowing down when perhaps you want to go faster. And so be mindful of those things and plan for them, and then you'll be able to overcome. There's also an issue with the camber, which on tired legs can seem more severe than it is, and it is, to begin with, quite severe. And so let's take a look at this section and talk you through some of the key points to be mindful of. So we begin at the top of Southern Cross Drive, which comes with 8 kilometers to go in both the ultra and the half marathon. And the first stage is this long straight descent, which will lead you in to a series, if you're in the mood for counting, of 9 bends, which takes you past Cecilia Forest and up towards the top gate of Kirstenbosch. This section now is a short little climb, following on from that long descent. And this typifies this section. It's full of these little undulations, up and then down, none of which are particularly long, but each of which poses a challenge just to your pace and your rhythm, so be prepared for that. It can be quite a challenging section. This is one of those slight undulations, nothing too severe, and it leads you into this left bend, number 4, which takes you past Cecilia Forest on your left-hand side, and this is the steepest of those short little climbs that you can expect to encounter in this section. The good news is that it's also one of the most accessible points of the route, and so you can look forward to some amazing crowd support. And just let that crowd support carry you along and build your energy, because shortly you'll encounter 15 kilometers, followed by the climb up to Top Gate, and that's followed by a long descent down towards the M3, where you can really cash in if you've managed to save your legs. Be aware also of the camber, which at points can be quite severe, and so it's best to try to keep as much as possible to the middle of the road. This here, bend number 8, is the 15 and 50 kilometer mark of the race, and it leads you into the final short uphill pull, which will take you towards the top gate of Kirstenbosch, and the point where you can start looking forward to some fairly steep descents. This section, again, you can expect absolutely amazing crowd support. It's one of the best supported sections of the race, and they usually have a mist shower on the left-hand side. So if you're feeling the heat, now's a good time to cool off. This is Top Gate, and this right-hand turn brings you to what is the steepest descent of the entire race. I've somewhat jokingly called it the mine shaft, but it is super steep, and it's a really challenging section on tired legs that have already done 50 or 15.5 kilometers. And so it's important here that you don't get carried away and let gravity do too much to you. Drop your hips and control your pace if you feel your legs are a little bit tired. There's a left-hand hairpin bend which continues the descent. This is around the 16 and 51 kilometer mark, and you then have about 300 or 400 meters of this very steep descent to go. If you are feeling good, now's the time to open up and to cash in on the steep descent. You can really make up a lot of time here if your legs are strong and if you've paced yourself and managed your effort well. As the road straightens out here, be on the lookout because usually they station the official race photographers here. And so if you fancy yourself as an extremely photogenic guy or girl, now's a good chance to crack a smile for the cameras as you go past the bottom gate at Kirstenbosch. This section of road, also very quick and mostly downhill, continues for another 1.5k before you make the left turn onto the M3 and the final 3 kilometers. So that's a wrap of what, in my experience, certainly is one of the most beautiful and enjoyable sections of the race. not only because of the amazing scenery and the tree cover, but also because you get such amazing crowd support there. It really does carry you when you may need it. And also because it's mostly downhill, which helps. The next section which we'll look at will be this finishing section up towards the University of Cape Town. And that's where the race gets a little bit more challenging again, because there's a slight pull up and it's not entirely flat. And obviously at the end of either 53 or 18 Ks, your legs will be tired. And so that's another reminder that on these sections here, you're still far enough from the finish that you can't just let it all go. So just be patient again, because next we'll have a look at that finishing straight and talk you all the way to the line.